You are Locked On Dolphins Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Miami on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, Dolphin fan? Welcome to your Dolphins Postcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries. And before you get too carried away, don't panic. Don't panic. Kyle's still here. Locked On Dolphins Podcast day in, day out. The best in the business. That's not going anywhere. We just moved the postcast over to this channel for this year. So, hey, the rising tides for everybody here. Hopefully no rising tides in South Florida, because that would mean storms, right? Not the kind of storm we want to see either, but the storm we want to see is the Dolphins on the field this year, and we finally get a look at these quarterbacks. We finally get a look at the stars, the rising stars on the defensive side of the football, and we finally get back on the field after a disastrous 2024. All the expectations heading into last season fizzled, died, just right there on the spot. Tua with the injuries, and they just didn't have a backup quarterback. Could not get it done last year. Started with Tyreek getting arrested, and everything just went downhill. New year with Mike McDaniel on a huge hot seat, albeit Tua as well with a big contract, bringing in Zach Wilson, new backup QB. Everybody wants Quinn Ewers from Texas to be the guy, but hey, they got to play the games, and they are on the field in Chicago today, and of course, brand new Chicago Bears, brand new coaching staff. Everything about them is brand new. And the Dolphins practice with them a couple days. Then they play them in the first preseason game. The final score, 24-24. It was a tie, but we will tell you how we got there. We'll talk about the key players and the quarterbacks in particular, focus on them. And hey, exhibition season, preseason for them. It's for us too. Brand new channel for the show this year, and you guys were hugely supportive last year. So appreciate it. Again, I'm Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries, Gries, at Jim Gries _ on social media. I work for ESPN nationally, and I've been covering, I do the Heat shows here, of course, as well in the Canes, but I've been covering sports in South Florida, went to the University of Miami, and worked for years in the Miami market. So you're in good hands with myself as well as Kyle. We got you covered day in and day out, as well as after the game. So thank you for making us your first watch or listen every day. We're free right here on YouTube. Postcast live right after every game ends. And then after the show, we upload, you download. Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Stitcher, Podbean, and of course, Roku. You down with OTT, not OPP at 53, but you know me. All right, what do you say we get this rolling? Dolphins Postcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, 24-24 in the Windy City. Let's roll.
This is what you'll be talking about.
So nice. We played it twice. There's Tua Tagovailoa. No one loves Tua, man. He doesn't get the love. The injuries have really put a damper on Tua's time in Miami, and obviously coming off of what they did in 2023 and then really disappointing with the offensive output and production last year, and Tua hurt for a lot of it, and he went out there today and started this game for the Dolphins. I mean, he played the opening drive, wanted to be out there, had not played much in preseason at all. You know what I'm saying? Preseason opener, it had been, 4 years since Tua played in a preseason opener. He was 5 out of 6, 27 yards, 15-play drive against the Bears' backup defense, right? And they failed to score because of a goal line stand. The Bears with a goal line stand. The Dolphins were running the ball, trying to establish the running game today with Achane and Jalen Wright and company. But look, they did engineer some touchdown drives. And when you look at it, each quarterback, Tua almost did. He brought him down the field. Zach Wilson a couple of times brought him down the field, and Ewers did too, even though Ewers was, not good at all numbers-wise, and we will get to that. But Tua starting the game, and when I think about, Tua Tagovailoa and staying healthy and all those things, I think there's been too much of a trend in the NFL with coaches, teams not playing their players in preseason games. Now, I've worked with a ton of former players over the years in the Miami market. I'll just name my Miami guys that I've worked with, whether it was Jim Kick or Mark Clayton or Terrell Buckley or Jason Taylor or any of the other guys I did shows with over the years. Probably the most, the Mad Dog Jim Mandich, Kim Bocamper, any of those guys will tell you, the more you play, the better. You don't want to get hurt, right? But this trend of, I think Tua played one drive in the preseason last year, and Hill and Waddle and all those guys not playing. And what happens is the first couple of games of the regular season, Herm Edwards told me this on ESPN radio across the country last year. The first couple of games of the regular season become like your exhibition games, the times where you're learning, where you're building, where you're growing on the field. So more and more, we should be seeing players playing in the preseason games. Look at what the Bears just did, right? They play their guys, and they didn't play Williams or any of their starters today. They play them all. They simulate and practice. And then the fans who pay regular season ticket prices for these games get hosed, like always. As the audience surges, please want to remind you, smash that like, the subscribe. A sub for me is a sub for Kyle for the whole channel. Don't worry, he's going nowhere. Locked On Dolphins podcast still every day. We are live right after the games on YouTube, and then we upload, you download, Apple, iHeart, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, Roku on the OTT over-the-top television side. 24-24, the final from Chicago. Yeah, the Bears stink. Yeah, the Dolphins. I mean, look, it's preseason, right? It's exhibition. It's truck drivers, grocery store clerks. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's everybody going for that NFL dream. You get the occasional superstar who will burst out and do what, I mean, and look what Shedeur Sanders did the other night for Cleveland. But so many things to look at for this preseason for the Miami Dolphins. The elevation of Chop Robinson is a big one, right? I mean, last year, we didn't really see him grow into his own and become what we thought he might become early in the year. But when I think about what they have up front, the Miami Dolphins this year, I'm very excited for that. We're going to get to that on the defensive side as well. But when I look at the guys who are expected to make big jumps, or guys who are expected to come right in, like a Kenneth Grant, that high draft pick, and you're expecting to see some big things this year from Zach Sealer again after the big money contract, and he obviously deserves that. Minkah Fitzpatrick is back. Jalen Ramsey being replaced. What are we going to do with those corners? They're aggressive. They're hard-hitting. A lot of fun for Miami with that. I'll say that. But the biggest, and I like Patrick Paul. He needs to really take a big jump this season in terms of year one to year two, the second-year player from Houston. You know, Ingold's been hurt. Darren Waller. I mean, Zito brings him one second. I'll get back to that in a minute with Darren Waller. But when I look at, Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and, man, Jonnu Smith was good last year. But I think with Waller, and, you get reunited with your coach, right? You get reunited with your coach, and that's a big thing for him. So Mostert's gone. You get Achane, and you get Jalen Wright. And I think that's a nice 1-2 punch coming out of the backfield. Madison got nicked up today, but he's a nice third stringer. But what we were really looking at today, guys, and this is something that, when I look at this team, it has to be about the QBs, right? Tua, when he's healthy, he's a Pro Bowl type player. The one weakness he has is the deep ball and really that velocity. He's not going to hum one through there. The tight windows, doesn't have the arm strength, right? He just doesn't. So you play to his strengths, which is what they did 2 years ago. He has the weapons. Last year, everybody played back, came up and made the tackles. They didn't give them any yards after catch. And that was something that the Dolphins weren't able to game plan around last year, except when they used Jonnu Smith. The running backs had some big games out of the backfield, but it's about the quarterbacks with this team. Tua missing all that time last year, and, you end up with Huntley playing quarterback. Thompson. Those guys were not good as backups, obviously. So with Zach Wilson coming in here, didn't play in Denver last year, but had the Sean Payton tutelage, right? All that time in New York, he was going to be the guy. Rodgers got hurt a couple of years ago. He played pretty well. So Wilson looks pretty good as that number 2 QB. Now, a couple of times when you let that pass rush in on a screen, he short-armed it, put a couple in the dirt where he shouldn't have, or he would have been 7 out of 9 in today's game. He engineered, drives down the field. He put points on the board. So number 2 QB, Zach Wilson, definite upgrade over what they had last year. And Ewers developing, right? 5 of 18. At one point, he was like 1 for 12 in this game. The much hyped kid from Texas who was being looked at as a potential Heisman guy, maybe a potential first-round guy heading into last year. And everybody talking about Shedeur Sanders. But how about the fall and the drop of Quinn Ewers? Now the Dolphins have him. They're able to groom him. The McDaniel-Shanahan system is perfect for a guy, like him. And I think about it. to the development of Wilson and the development of Ewers this year behind Tua. Wilson's got to be much quicker. Ewers, they can maybe bring him along a little bit, although the fans, and McDaniel said, hey, the competition's open. The number 2 job is open, although Zach Wilson clearly looks like the better player after today's game. All right, Jim Grieshaber, call me Gries, 24-24 in the Windy City. Tua with 1 good drive. Zach Wilson looked good today. Obviously, Ewers turned it on late, had the touchdown drive. We'll tell you a little bit about how those things happen, the development of the QBs, what else stood out for me today watching this game, and what it's going to be like this season. Doing the postcast right here on the same channel as the podcast. Dolphins right here. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's the postcast. Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries. Couple of words from our fantastic sponsors, and then we'll have things like the turning point and the star of the game coming your way in just a couple of minutes. This is Dolphins Postcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. This episode of Dolphins Postcast is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, myself and Locked On's Dolphins podcast are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Why not? Keep it going, right? I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years. The updates they're rolling out this month are wild in the best way. They have guillotine leagues now. They just dropped every week. The lowest scoring team eliminated, and the last one standing wins. That's why I call it guillotine leagues, right? So whether you're all in on something new or you like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo's got you covered like always. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play Yahoo Fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play head-to-head leagues or join a public league. So stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And let me tell you about game time. What time is it? Hey, we've all been there, right? Logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time Zone Deals. Pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder with your view, well, actually, what it's going to look like before you buy? The app shows you panoramic seat views, so there are no surprises. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. And if you're worried about what happens if plans change, don't worry. The Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. So do what I do. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets, game tickets as well, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Jim Grieshaber, call me Gries, 24-24, the final. The Dolphins in Chicago opening up the preseason against the Bears. We're live on YouTube right after the games. with the postcast. Now, the podcast with Kyle still day to day right here on all the same platforms. So a like, a sub, a comment, all those things for him is one for me. So everybody's going, oh my God, who are you? Where's he? No. But we're both here all season long. So live on YouTube right after the games. Here we are. Handsome face. Get it? Perfect. After this show, we upload, you download Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. And of course, on the OTT side, it is Roku as well. Offensive line depth horrendous, but I think everyone knew this. I'm sure Grier and McDaniel are not worried about it. Well, I'm sure they are worried about it, NAA. I don't know how much they could do about it, but I'm sure they're worried about it. The offensive line depth is razor thin. You get anything going on up there injury-wise, and you're in big trouble. And when you have a quarterback as delicate as Tua is with the concussion and obviously the rest of his body, right? The biggest thing with Tua last year is obviously slide, bro. Always slide. Never try to get that extra yard. Anyone comes anywhere near you, slide, right? Slip sliding away. The thing is keeping Tua healthy, getting that ball out of there very quickly from that pocket into the hands of those Ferraris, of those speedsters. We know this, right? So the offensive line is not going to be asked to do a lot of extended pass pro. You're not going to be asked to hold those blocks forever. The run game, yeah, you're going to have to be nasty. You're going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have to take it to them. The other thing I like about the offensive line this year is the defensive front is so good in my mind and so fast and so diverse that this offensive line every day is getting the hell worked out of them in practice, and I really like that. So keep those comments coming. Keep the questions coming. Jim Grieshaber, call me Gries. Keep those subs. Keep hitting that bell so you know when we're coming your way with more content, and keep finding us wherever we are. Locked On Dolphins podcast every day with Kyle, and, of course, Dolphins postcast with yours truly, Jim Grieshaber, call me Gries. Again, the final, boom, right there, 24-24, and we'll have graphics for things throughout the shows week in and week out. A couple of things to do here and a short time to do them in. So let's start with
time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Tua Tagovailoa played in his first preseason opener since 2021. 5 of 6, 27 yards, 15-play drive against the Bears backups. Miami fails to score on their first drive. They didn't look good against the Bears' first-team defense in the joint practices this week. Bears defense didn't play today. So the turning point has to be the offense getting better. You know, they can't punch it in from the 1-yard line, a goal line stand. And then Zach Wilson directs a touchdown drive. Quinn Ewers directs a touchdown drive. Wilson had a couple of attempted screen passes where he's fading back and throws the ball into the ground. Could have been 7 out of 9. Needs to work on those. And then Ewers started off as a disaster. Got really good, though, toward the end. Engineered a scoring drive in the fourth quarter. Jason Sanders with a nice 56-yard field goal. Ties the game at 24, and that's the way it went. Ewers was 5 for 18 for 91 yards. But, man, oh, man, Ollie Gordon punched in the score on the 8-play, 41-yard drive and gave the Dolphins the lead in the fourth quarter. So that was one to grow on, so to speak. All right, here we go.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough in preseason because guys don't play the full game. I like what Zach Wilson did. If he hadn't messed up those 2 screens, he'd have been 7 for 9, averaging over 10 yards of completion. You know what I mean? A touchdown drive, not a touchdown pass. None of the QBs threw a touchdown pass. Ewers was 5 of 18, 2 of 5 out of 6. So in total, 15 of 33. Most of those incompletions thrown by Quinn Ewers, the rookie out of Texas. But for the running game, you know, Ollie Gordon, he scored a touchdown, 8 carries, 33 yards. It could be up there for star of the game. Jalen Wright punched one in, as did Alexander Madison. Receiver-wise, I think Malik Washington early on, obviously a big target for Tua with, you know, Tyreek out and no one played in this game today, obviously. So when you look at that, I like what Malik Washington did. I like what Jalen Wright did, except getting stuffed on the 1-yard line. But I would say that I'd go star of the game Tua just because he went 5 for 6 on the opening drive. And I like what I saw from him. I like what I saw from the QBs, but nobody lit the world on fire, to say the least. So there you have it. that's the first show in the books already. Next week, they play the Lions. And how about that? A couple of Central Division teams in the NFC. They do the thing on the road with the practices again, and they play the game next Saturday. And we will be here right after that game. So that kickoff next Saturday against the Lions is at 1 p.m., and we'll be here right after with your postcast again, right after the games, live on YouTube with the postcast. Then we upload Stitcher, Podbean, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, and of course, Roku. And then day in and day out, Kyle's as good as anybody in the business. Locked On Dolphins podcast. You won't want to miss that, and you never do based on the numbers. So a tremendous job as always. So thank you for making us your first watch or listen today. For your second, how about Locked On Bets? Kevin Rogers with my boy Lee Sterling, one of the best and foremost betting experts in the industry. I work on this network because of Lee Sterling. He helped get me the job, and he is the best in the business, breaking them down. Can't miss football futures with Locked On Bets. Find them on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for being here, Dolphin fans. 24-24 the final. Keep your game tight and your mind right. Thank you for watching Dolphins Postcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jim Grieshaber, call me Gries. We will be back next week with another one. Keep your game tight and your mind right, baby. I'm out.